Hi, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. I'm sorry that it's taken me a while to get another substantive video out. But as I said in my last short video, I wanted to make sure that I put something together that had meat and depth without just kind of regurgitating stuff. So I titled this one, as you saw, it's the other Great Reset that could be coming. So when we talk about the Great Reset, we often talk about, of course, the WEF, the transhumanism, Fourth Industrial Revolution, all of that stuff that we are well aware of. But there is another Great Reset that we need to be thinking about. And that is being put back into the 1800s because of our power grid going down. And I apologize, one of my kitties is up here again, needing attention. So just a couple of ancillary things. First of all, I was finally giving in to having chickens. Trying to get more into that homesteading part. But then I found that chicken feed, along with almost all other animal feed, is up almost, I guess that would be 85%. So it went from $10 for a 50-pound bag of chicken feed to almost 20. And that was just in one area. Of course, you're going to find, different prices depending on where you live, and where you buy it from. But nationally, all of these types of feeds have gone up tremendously. So we're looking at, the cost. Is it something, it's obviously it's something we should have done a long time ago. I'm going to be completely honest here. I am not a winter person. I like to hibernate. But, so having to go out in the wintertime and take care of animals just was not my idea of fun. Our animals, except for the 2 guinea pigs, have a door where they can go in and out all they want to. The thought of actually having to go out in 30 below weather did not interest me at all. And then now, when I finally thought that maybe we could do that, the price is up incredibly high. And so I'm going to do some more research on that. If you guys know more about that, like, how much feed do you go through if you had, like, I don't know, 25, 50 chickens, how much feed do they go through? I've got to do some more research on all of that stuff. But that's, that's my personal experience. But also we have to look at it from the farmer's perspective. The farmers that already have the chickens and the pigs and the cows and the horses and the sheep and the goats, all of these farm animals that we eat need to be fed. And because farmers are also paying that higher price for feed, that price is going to come down to us. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the supply chain stuff, but that's not the focus of this video. I just really wanted to throw that in there, that probably by this fall or this winter, if things stay on the path that they're on, the meat prices, they're already insane, let's face it, right? We all know that. I think they're probably going to be way worse come fall or winter. So, but the Great Reset that I'm talking about, as I said, is going back to the time before electricity. Now, in some ways, is that necessarily a bad thing? It takes away our dependence on electronics, right? It can bring people closer together because you're having to work as a family to survive it. But on the other side, the people that aren't prepared for it will not survive it. That's the unfortunate side of it. Our infrastructure right now is being targeted by cyber attacks. And we also have the fact that they're trying to turn all of our fossil fuel power plants into cleaner renewable energy plants. But they're shutting down the fossil fuel plants faster than what they're able to build these cleaner energy plants, right? Your solar and your wind power plants aren't as stable, right? If you don't have wind and if you don't have sun, you can't generate the type of electricity that we would need to run certain areas. So, and this is being talked about not just on the prepping channels and on alternative media, but it's starting to come out more and more in mainstream media as well. But a lot of people are turning a blind eye to it, and that's really unfortunate. If our power grid went down in the United States, they are saying, and I was going to quote who said it, so I have to find it. I think it was USSA News. If our power grid went down in the United States, 90% of our population would probably die. The other people that are left would then be fighting for whatever resources were left if you aren't able to completely live off-grid. That's the unfortunate part. And that's where having a MAG group and, kind of getting all your ducks in a row now can greatly impact your ability to survive that. But think about that. 90%. So think about people that are that rely, the medically sick people that rely on electricity to, keep their heart going, keep their body going, right? Things, as crazy as it is, and it might seem like a small thing, but CPAPs, right? A lot of people that use those have to, because of the snoring and the stopping the breathing and that type of thing. They're not going to be able to have that. And, that's, like I said, that's kind of a small thing. But literally, those people could die in their sleep. Okay? It's really hard to grasp the fullness of the impact that a complete power grid failure would have. Most hospitals, well, I'm assuming every hospital has backup generators, right? But their generators rely on fuel. Once that fuel runs out, then what do? Okay? If our power grid gets destroyed by an EMP, it could take months to years to rebuild. Most hospitals and places like that don't have years worth of fuel. I imagine they maybe have 3 days, maybe a week. I don't know what the average is. But that at some point that generator is going to stop. That means everybody on life support. That means that everybody that needs some type of, medical emergency surgery isn't going to be able to get it. So just that layer of people are already at a very high risk of not surviving, unfortunately. Then you have your next section down, which is people that did not prep anything. So people that don't have food, extra food in their house, extra water in their house, ways to cook, ways to heat, ways to cool, that type of stuff. That's your next layer, right? And so you have the very elderly and the vulnerable that can't survive 100-degree heat without air conditioning, or in the wintertime have no way to survive 30 below zero temperatures, or even freezing temperatures for long periods, right? So that's your next layer. Then you have the people left over that are going to be fighting for all of the resources that are left. So it will impact everyone to such a degree that I don't think we can fully grasp that. In some ways, honestly, I think it might be a good thing. As I said, it gets us away from the technology dependence. It also, I guess, makes us use that other part of our brain that's there, but we haven't had to use it because our brains have been wired for convenience. And it's going to take a lot of hard work to survive a grid down situation. A lot of hard work. You're cutting your wood. You're cooking, in ways that you have to wait for your stove to heat up. And then you have to use very limited amount of dishes and pots and pans and plates and silverware and all that, because you can't just throw them in the dishwasher, right? So all of these things are very impactful. It also, I guess, in a way, gives us the opportunity to really get back to nature the way that God intended. To really understand, to pay attention to, the migration patterns and the sounds and, the things that animals can tell us and nature can tell us. These are things that people back in the 1800s were much more able to do because that's all they knew. But then as we progress technologically, we didn't have to rely so much on that, right? We could just look at our Google weather app to find out what the weather was going to be tomorrow. They felt it in their bones, and some people obviously still do. But it's going to reset humans in a way that can either be very beneficial if you survive it and learn from it, or it can be absolutely devastating. It just depends on what you're prepared for. So this threat from an EMP, so it's coming from Iran, North Korea, China, and Russia. So right now, Iran, they don't have the capability, as far as we know, right? We're not told everything, but they don't have the re-entry vehicle for an actual nuclear strike. But a HEMP, which is HEMP, high altitude electromagnetic pulse, does not require that re-entry vehicle, and it doesn't require the accuracy. Okay, so my guess is they either already have it or they're really close to having that capability. And not only that, but Iran is already building up its critical infrastructure because they are preparing for a military response from the United States right now. The other thing that's causing our power grid to be so vulnerable right now is because they are trying to switch so quickly to that clean, renewable energy. According to the Wall Street Journal, the power grid instability and increased risk of power shortages this summer comes as fossil fuel power plants are being retired more quickly than they can be replaced by renewable energy and battery storage. So your solar energy and your wind energy, that energy has to go into some sort of storage. And they don't have the capability right now to produce those large-scale battery operations. But in the meantime, because we're pushing and pushing and pushing for all of the things to stop climate change, this is having a huge impact on our faltering energy supply. And they are warning now of, well, they call it, what do they call it? They don't call it rolling blackouts, which I thought was funny because everybody knows what that is, right? They're calling it, I'm trying to find it here in my notes, distributed energy resources. Okay. Distributed energy resources. In other words, rolling blackouts. And they're already talking about it. So in California, for example, Gavin Newsom, along with their energy, whoever their energy director, whatever they're called is, said that that state would have power supply gaps, meaning rolling blackouts, that could leave millions without power during peak hours due to lack of power generation. And this was just recently. And, Business Insider, they're basically saying the same thing, that the supplies can't keep up with the demand because of that transition to renewable energy. And what doesn't make sense to me is why the push to change to renewable energy when we're already in the midst of all of these other crises, right? The war, the supply chain, all these things that we talk about. Why are they continuing to push the fossil fuel plants out and bring in these renewable energy plants when we're already dealing and struggling with so much already? And with the threats that are coming at the United States from all these different directions, in my opinion, it would be more important to fix the current infrastructure first, right? Update our security, so that we can't get cyber attacked and have our power grid shut down. You guys have heard now, I think it was Lincoln College in Illinois. They're shutting down permanently, partly due to a cyber attack, partly because of COVID. They never really came back from that, but then they got a cyber attack in December of last year, and they just couldn't get the money to either pay them off or fix their computer system or whatever it was. And they took I think it was a fertilizer plant or something that was hit by a cyber attack in March or something like that. I mean, there's just so much, right? Attacking our power grid. This has to be a wake-up call to everybody that this could be a different Great Reset, the other Great Reset that very well could be coming, and you need to prepare for that. Along with that, and I'm won't get into a whole lot of detail with this part of it, but You know, we all know that the supply chain, the the food prices, the food shortages, all of that stuff, right? Well, they're saying now that global diesel shortage will start in June. Okay? So, for example, the diesel inventory on the East Coast is only about 3 days worth. This is going to run out probably within I want to figure out how to say this, because they have their inventory is 3 days. They still get inventory that comes in, so it's not like 3 days and they're done, right? But their inventory that comes in is less and less and less and less. And so it's only going to be a matter of time, and they are going to have a massive diesel shortage on the East Coast. The trucks won't be able to run. Diesel fuel is up 75% from a year ago. I think the national average is $5.55. That's the national average. Of course, it's higher in some places, lower in some places. But where do those costs go then? Of course, they come down to the consumer, which is just going to jack everything back up again. Or I should say, continue to jack everything back up again. So, I just want you to be aware that there is a different kind of great reset that could be coming. And you have to prepare for this in any way that you can. If you are a vulnerable adult, I don't know the backstory of all of you. I don't, okay? But if you are a vulnerable adult, it is crucial that you have other means of cooling yourself down. And I'm going to try to do a video like very soon on alternative ways of heating yourself down, like, you know, an ice, I can't think of what it's called, but I will do a video on alternative ways to cool down, okay? Especially if it's rolling blackouts. And it's, you know, rolling blackouts typically, like they're talking about, are during peak hours. So the power is not off for very long, okay? But if the power grid goes down, you are going to need that long-term way to survive right now, the heat of the summer, but then also stay warm in the dead of winter. So I want to make sure that I cover that in a tangible way. And I also want to make sure that I do it in a way that represents everybody's income levels. Okay? You know, I know that there's a lot of people that are on very fixed incomes, and I'm very well aware of that. So I will try to find solutions that are cost effective, cheap, you know, things that don't require a lot of overhead to put things together to create. I'm going to do my best. And if anybody has ideas about that, please put them in the comment section below right now. You know, everybody's pretty aware about, you know, ways to cook without electricity. I will be doing the water catchment system because I know somebody asked about that. Hopefully maybe Thursday. I want to take you out. Now, I will show you one of our catchment systems that we have. It's a super simple water catchment. So we always have to be constantly aware about things going on in Europe with Russia and Ukraine and all of that. But we also can't take our eyes off these other countries and what they're doing. We also can't take our eyes off what our own government is doing. Trying to replace these fossil fuel plants, energy plants, with renewable energy when we don't even have that full infrastructure in place, to me, makes no sense. So I hope that this video gave you some information to help you keep thinking in terms of prepping without that power grid. Okay? It's coming. I believe that it's coming. I still believe that World War III is coming. I still believe that things are happening at a pace that we are not prepared for. No matter how much we think we're prepared, right? So keep stacking, stack it to the rafters, stack it again if you can. Let's hang in there together. Let's give each other support, okay? If you pose a question on here, you know, like I'm going to be showing our water catchment system, one of them. If you have a water catchment system that you want to share, post pictures. I am all for community, building each other up, helping each other out. What are ways that people can do this without spending a lot of money? Okay? Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and the notification bell. And I'm hoping to get a video out on Thursday, and I am going to try to focus on the water catchment system and maybe some other alternative ways to do things that don't cost a lot of money. So bear with me. This is a crazy week for me, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through whatever comes. God bless.